Okay. The Great Smoky Mountains National Park in the national park system is the most visited, which surprised me. I didn't realize that. You would have thought Grand Canyon National Park or Yellowstone National Park, Mount Rushmore or something like that would have been the most visited. But it turns out the Great Smoky Mountains National Park has the most visitors going to it. There's 3 visitor centers. The Sugarlands Visitor Center, which is the one near Gatlinburg, Tennessee. It is the Gatlinburg face of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. The Acavalante, I think is how it's pronounced, Visitor Center, which is the North Carolina side of the park. And then there's one called Cades Cove, which really takes some effort to get to. So this trip was to the Sugarlands Visitor Center. For me, it was an overnight trip because it was in Tennessee and I was coming out of Charlotte with an electric vehicle, so I needed to plan my charging stops. And on this trip, I actually made the trip only charging off free chargers. So my charging cost was 0. I didn't do anything. There was a couple of back and forth comments in some postings I did asking about, hey, how much you cost to charge your electric vehicle and whatnot. So I'm like, well, tell you what, I'm just going to take that off. I'm going to do only free chargers on these charging desert road trips, just to make it that much more challenging. Because I like a challenge. For me, it's an adventure. It's fun to go venture out into the community with an electric vehicle, make it somewhere where there's a charging desert, nothing around, and see if I could actually do it. It says there's a charger here. Let me take a look. There's no charger here. That thing's busted. That don't work. Oh, it's a wall plug. Yeah. Okay, so you could plug in there and it'll take freaking forever. Oh, this guy says it's not even there. Okay. So anyway, there's no chargers. It takes a lot. And this building is cool. This was built by the CCC, and this is the visitor center built by the CCC. So it is a really cool place to go. Definitely not a place that you would expect to see EVs. I'll go into this a little bit more, but the Great Smoky Mountains National Park was actually, you would think it was established by conservationists in order to maintain the pristine wilderness that is that portion of the country, the Appalachian Mountains, but it actually was championed by people who were in automotive clubs looking for exciting places to take their cars. Cars were becoming so popular, and people wanted cool places to drive. And so they were petitioning their representatives to establish the Great Smoky Mountains National Park as a thoroughfare for nature road trips. And that was really the driving force for the establishment of the park. And the CCC came through and built some beautiful roads. This was the most beautiful road trip I have ever been on. I've taken trips all over the country, and Highway 441 from the Sugarlands Visitor Center to the Acavalante Visitor Center, far and away was the most beautiful stretch of road I had ever been on. It was, words fail to describe just how beautiful it was. Anyway, let's look at the chargers. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Again, this is the wall charger at the Sugar. That doesn't count. In Gatlinburg, there are no chargers. All these are guest-only hotels. So there is no free charging or paid charging anywhere in Gatlinburg. But again, I was trying to stick to the free charging. And where I charged was here. My last charge before going into the Sugarlands Visitor Center was here at this level 2 charger at the Haywood Community College, which is right on the edge of the Asheville, North Carolina metropolitan area. And here's a picture of the charger. It's old, and it actually had a sign. Let me see if I can pull up the sign. There's a sign. Let me get the zoom in. There we go. It was the first electric vehicle charging station in 2012, and the thing is still chugging along. I was able to get a charge out of it. And the nice thing about the location is there's nature trails that you can go walk on while your car is charging. So I parked there and charged up before going into this charging desert, and was able to successfully complete my goal of only using free chargers on this EV road trip. And here's the stretch of 441 that I'm talking about. All right. Park is known for elk being reintroduced and thriving. There is a close-up of a bull with a full rack. This was fall, so they had their full racks. And really cool, nice animal. It's like a cross between a horse and a deer. It's a big animal. When the park was dedicated, Franklin Delano Roosevelt came to dedicate the park, and he did so at this location, and they put this plaque in place, which describes the purpose for the park is for the enjoyment of the people and the people who sponsored it. But Franklin Delano Roosevelt gave the dedication speech from this location. There's some of the incredible, breathtaking, impossible to describe in words views that I had on that 441 stretch of road between Sugarlands and Cherokee. Was just making a blurb that unlike the charging desert of Western North Carolina, Atlanta, Georgia is the opposite. I needed to go there for work on an emergency, so I hopped in my Tesla and headed out there. And just to prove the point that a Tesla supercharger road trip on interstates is a non-event as far as exciting, fun, edge of your seat, concerning apprehension, road tripping goes, it isn't. And Atlanta has 10 superchargers. So you, basically anywhere you go in Atlanta, you could plug into a supercharger and be done with your charging in 10 minutes. So on this trip, though, into Western North Carolina, my first stop was at a dealership. And apparently at dealerships, the brands, in this case Nissan, is requiring dealers to install DC fast chargers if they want to have the ability to sell the electric vehicles. So in the case of Nissan, that's the Nissan Leaf. In the case of Chevrolet, there's the Chevrolet Bolt and the Equinox EV, and then the Silverado EV is coming. So from what I understand, if you want to be a Chevrolet dealer and sell those cars, you need to install DC fast chargers. Hyundai, too, has the Ioniq 5 and soon to be the Ioniq 6. And I know Hyundai is requiring their dealers to install these DC fast chargers if they want to have access to the inventory. I actually spoke to someone at one of those dealers, and they explained the situation. You have to go through this whole auditing process in order to ensure that your charger is up to specifications and things like that. But I stopped for 27 minutes, pulled 46 kilowatts for 27 minutes, and went from 62 to 83. Free. And in Marion, North Carolina, there was another dealer that had a DC fast charger installed. And I went from 62 to 84 in 25 minutes, pulling a full 50 kilowatts. And it was 50 kilowatt DC fast charger, and I was pulling the full 50 kilowatts. No problem whatsoever. It was a nice charger. And here I am at the Haywood Community College, parked. And I'm going to stay there for a while because this is it. Before I go to Western North Carolina, no more EV chargers until I flip back around down 441 from the Sugarlands Visitor Center into Cherokee. Very slow 6 kilowatt hours. But there's nature trails. And here's some of the scenes along the nature trail hike. It's a mock mill built by students at the community college. There's a look inside the mock mill. And then water wheel is kind of funny because there's nothing up here to make the water wheel spin. It's just for decoration. Glamping. Yeah, so because you gotta sit around and wait for your car to charge, a lot of EV road trippers glamp, which is camping glamorously. So glamorous camping, glamping. And there's all setups. And what I found on Amazon was an air mattress for cars. And the way it works is the doors have a little bit more width to them than these wheel wells. So they make air mattresses for cars, and they make them adaptable so you only fill up what sections fit in your car. And because this is an SUV, there's actually lots of space. You fold down the back seat, you put in the air mattress, and basically you have a bed. You know, if you're 6 foot tall, you're going to have to sleep cradle style on your side or something because you won't be able to stretch your legs out, depending on how big your EV is. But me, I'm only about 5'5", so I'm fine in here, and I could sleep just fine. I took a nap while the car was charging. But that's my glamping setup for overnight trips. There's me sleeping. I did wake up early that day. All right, so here's the stunt. I went down 40 over to the Sugarlands Visitor Center, and then number 2 right here is the next place I would have to charge, right? So the guessometer was saying I was going to arrive there with 28%. Now, if it's off, I'm really screwed because there is no plugs, no chargers, even if I wanted to pay for it, there is nowhere to charge anywhere along here. So I had to be really sure I was going to be okay. And guessometers are what they are, but I found the Volvo XC40 Recharge does a damn good job of estimating your range. Like even if I'm going up inclines, I've done a lot of EV road trips into charging deserts. I found that it will tell me upon return, you'll have this percentage, and you'll see that going uphill, it'll account for the drain on the battery that uphill will require. And like it'll say you'll have 30% left when you get to your destination, and then if you want to come back, you'll have like 32%. So you'll be at 50%, you'll burn 20% going up, and you'll burn 4% coming down. And going down because the regen effect of the electric vehicle in taking gravity and putting it back into the battery is all accounted for. And so I found the Volvo XC40 Recharge guessometer is pretty accurate and pretty reliable. So I was comfortable disconnecting at this point and beginning my road trip into the charging desert. And boom, I made it. Sugarland Visitor Center. Now I do have to cross through no man's land to go across the entire park on 441 yet. But here I hung out at the Visitor Center for a little bit. Most visited national park. And I'd say this Visitor Center on the Tennessee side is more visited than the North Carolina side, just because Gatlinburg, Tennessee is adjacent to it. They have a nature museum inside with critters that you might see. They don't have an elk yet because it wouldn't fit. I swear it's as big as a moose. And Cntr goods for people who are going out on hikes. That's one of the most popular things to do in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park is do overnight hiking. And this lady was making apple butter 2 weeks previous in farm clothing. And now she's back in her ranger clothes. But you can see the crowds here. There's bus loads of people coming in. I mean, fall foliage season in the Smoky Mountains is a very crowded endeavor. You can see the traffic going through. There is a little hike to a small waterfall near the Sugarlands Visitor Center. This is what it looks like. Nothing much to the waterfall. It's more like just a creek falling over some rocks. Still pretty though. It was a nice day. And now we're getting into the trip. Boy, was this amazingly beautiful. Just spectacular. And you can see the color changes as you rise in altitude. Higher up elevations, trees have a hard time surviving for a couple of different reasons. But just seeing the change in color from yellow, orange, green, and then barren. And you look here, it's almost a sheer rock face with trees on it that you're driving towards. There's the video. I think this is called chimney stacks. Something like that. A lot of fresh mountain creeks along the way. And the CCC road that was built through here, 441, has a lot of pull-offs where you just pull off and enjoy the nature beauty that you're passing through with parking available. Some rock strata from the Appalachian Mountains. I forgot the name of this mountain, but it sure was pretty. This valley, as I understand the road down there, this overlook is normally completely overrun with people and you can't get at it. I happened to be lucky as I was passing through and there was some parking. And I spoke to some locals saying that I was fortunate to be able to find parking. So beautiful. Not me. I'm an ugly old guy, but the scenery was beautiful. And this is where Franklin Delano Roosevelt dedicated the Great Smoky Mountains National Park from, up here. And this is one of the scenic overlooks built by the CCC. It's about halfway across 441 between Sugarlands and Cherokee. You can see the mob scene. Very little parking remaining, with all the people coming to see the color in the upper elevations of the Smokies. I mean, seriously, ridgeline, 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 ridgeline. Goes on forever. Wow. Just so beautiful. I swear I could look at it all day. Look at that. Holy smokes. What a place to eat your bologna sandwich. Not going to see something like that anywhere else. The CCC really picked out a great route through here. Some of the sheer rock that they had to deal with, they cut through it in order to make the road. Then my final stop was in the town of Cherokee in the Cherokee Nation. They have a casino that they operate, and people who are familiar with the EV community know that casinos are great places to get a free charge. So this is where I hung out and got a free charge before heading back home. Stayed there for a while.